Welcome to the Mike Litton Experience Podcast. Mike has over 31 years experience in real estate, finance, and investing. He's passionate about being a father, a teacher, a realtor, an investor, and a leader. Everyone has a story, and our passion is to help them tell it. And now, introducing the host of the Mike Litton Experience, Mike Litton.
So what can you expect from the Mike Litton Experience? You can expect stories that will inspire, motivate, advice that will sharpen your focus, and expert information on real estate, finance, and market conditions.
Quite a bit of companies that did import and export, and I couldn't get a job. But then I saw this ad for a construction company, and it was a project manager position. So I applied for it. I got hired. I was like, well, it's too easy. And I remember that at that time, you know, with the girlfriend I had at the time, her and I finished school together, and we both had this vision, and we said, hey, we could make what Lyle makes. Lyle was Annette's stepfather, and he was making he's probably at the time was probably about a 60-year-old man, and he was making $58,000 a year. And her and I thought if we could if by the time we're like 40, 38, we can make what he's making, like we'll be well off.
Yeah.
And that's what we thought.
Yeah.
Here comes my first job. I get an offer at $65,000 in this construction company. And we're like, whoa, what's up with that? So obviously, even though I didn't like construction, I went for it. But then when I started working there, I received a call from another company I applied, and they offered me more money. I was like, wait, wow, these guys really, they pay good money. So so I applied. I said, you know what? I remembered a prophecy that was given to me when I was 13 years old. My dad went to go preach to this church, and I always liked going to my father. He growing up, I always wanted to be like him, and still do I almost say once in a while, but I still do in some aspects. And but love my parents, and I went with him to this preaching he did, and I like hanging out with him, but I wasn't a church going guy. I was just there because I wanted to be with my dad.
Right.
And I didn't want to do at the time what he did, which is a pastor thing and a preacher and evangelist at the time. He was an evangelist and would travel throughout Latin America. And entrepreneur / evangelist. And this time was very different because when he finished preaching, the pastor of that church grabbed the mic, went on stage and said, hey, you know, Mr. Aguilar's son, can you please come to the front? I want to pray for you. I was all the way in the back. And I said, me? Yeah, you. I'm like, okay. So I came to the front, and the guy prophesied that I was going to own a construction company and build churches. And I remember him praying for me, literally physically with his hand on my head, and I opened up my eyes, and I was like, this guy's crazy. And my dad being next to saying, close your eyes, son. That's respectful. So I closed my eyes back, like, hey, this guy doesn't know what he's saying. I'm going to go to school to not do construction, you know? And anyways, I remember that. And I said, whoa, is that a coincidence? So I said, I'm going to go ahead and apply for the biggest company I could apply for the best position they have, and we'll see what happens. So I did some research, and a company with the name of Point and Gosnell Builders was not hiring, but I knew they didn't have, they were the largest employer in the state of Arizona, top 3 developer in our country, but they didn't have much California presence. They had big presence, but not as much as in other states or other parts of the world.
Right.
I did my due diligence. So then I called them and said, hey, I know you guys don't have a big presence in San Diego. I'm from San Diego. I know a lot of people here. I would like to work for you guys. Can I send you my resume? Sent the resume, got a call back. And I'll never forget this. When I was getting interviewed, the director of operations for the company was interviewing me, came out to the front desk and looked at me, looked at Allison Glenn at the time, who was his secretary, and said, where's my appointment, my 1 o'clock, whatever.
Where's my interview?
Yeah, it was my interview. And I think he said, like, where's my 1 o'clock? And he referenced the time, basically. And it was very memorable because of what he said. So
Yeah.
then Allison said, "Oh, here's Mr. Aguilar." And then he looked at me from top to bottom and he said, "Is this a joke?" But he didn't say that to me. He said it to Allison. And I was like, "Hello, I'm right here. I'm listening, you know."
Yes, I can hear you. Yes.
It's not a joke. I'm here to get interviewed, sir. And he goes, "I'm sorry." I was actually following him to his office. He started walking back to his office. I started following him. He looks back. He's this big, tall dude, American guy, and with big hand. I call him Papa Bear now. He's my mentor, one of my best friends forever. And he literally got this big Papa Bear hand and goes, "Sir," he goes, "Mr. Aguilar, I don't have time. I'm sorry. This position we're looking for, we thought you were someone else. Your resume is pretty good, but I'm sorry." And I followed him all the way to his office. I didn't take no for an answer. So I followed him and I said, "Sir, I need 5 minutes of your time. Could you give me 5 minutes?" He was sitting behind his desk already. He said, "Hey, you're already in my office. Go ahead. What's up?" And I said, "Look, no matter what I say or do, you're not going to believe me. I'm not a guy that thinks that people are racist because of the color of my skin and you're being a racist." I said, "I'm not going to go that route." I said, "But I know that because of my age and the position that I'm applying for, you're not you're not going to believe on me. But let me tell you, this is what I want to do." I said, "Give me the worst project that you have here in California. Give me 7 days and I'll come back with a budget, subtrade assembly, with other subcontractors that are going to build this project, architects, consultants, third party, consultants, and I'll bring a full developed plan with a schedule." I said, "At the end of 7 days,
And a budget, right?
in a budget, yeah, the
Yeah,
budget assembly is a budget." And
right.
I said, "Hey, would you allow me to purchase the plans of this job that you might have that is not working for you?" And I had some intel that they had some jobs that weren't working for them in California, what I had read. So I said, "Give me like the worst job you have and let me take a look at it. I would even pay for the plans." I said, "I'm finishing up school. I'm a student. I don't have a lot of money to be spending, sir, but I know the plans are probably like $300. I'm willing to pay for the plans, the blueprints, and I'll bring him back."
Mhm.
And he smiled at me. He goes, "If that's what's going to take to get rid of you, then I'll give you the plans for free."
Ah,
So he asked someone to give me a set of plans. I left, and again, I was like, "What did I get into?"
right.
So I was finishing up school, and I was trying to put this budget together, and I hit a wall. I had never built anything aside from a couple of houses, and I learned that I knew how to read blueprints, but naval architecture, not massive multifamily developments. The
Right.
plans that I got, they were to develop 272 condominiums in Spring Valley here in Southern California. Anyways, on the third day, I was notorious for not sleeping and working, studying through the night when I was going to school, and I was doing the same thing for that project. And on the third day, I was falling asleep. Tears started coming out, but I always had this engraved in me. And my dad did a good job with this, where if I always say I'm going to do something, I do it or I die.
Mhm.
Like literally, like I'm not going to stop. And I couldn't. I had committed to Mr. Bears. I was going to do it. I said I was going to do something. So I went to the backyard on the third day, and I found two empty paint buckets, 5-gallon buckets, and brought them inside, filled them up with water and ice, put my feet in it. I didn't like caffeine back then. Didn't like coffee. I love coffee now.
Mhm.
I'm an avid coffee drinker. I'm in recovery right now for 7 weeks, by the way. But anyways, I didn't like coffee back then, so I put my feet in these two buckets of water and ice and worked through the night. And on day 6, after asking for a lot of favors and friends and reading a lot, I was able to finish my project. I called Mr. Bears, went to go see him, showed him the project. He grabbed it and he was like, he was confused. That's what I saw in his eyes. He just seemed confused. He didn't know what to expect when he saw it. He just looked surprised. And I don't know what that meant. So he's like, "1 second." So he has this beautiful executive office, and it later became my office, by the way. But anyway, so he turned back to his older desk behind his executive desk and opened up his briefcase because he would travel from Arizona, our corporate office, to San Diego
Mhm.
every week. And he opened up his briefcase and he took out his own budgets for that project from his team in Arizona. And he puts it next to mine. He goes, "Where'd you get this?" I said, "Sir, I didn't get it. I put it together."
Mm-hmm.
He goes, "How'd you do this?" I'm like, "Is it good? Is it bad? What is it?"
Mm-hmm.
"You're only off by like 5 or 6%.
Mm-hmm.
I took my group of project managers in Arizona who do this for a living. I remembered
3 months.
Yeah, 3 months to do this. What, what is it? How'd you do it?" I said, "Sir, well, I went out and I told him what I did, told him about the buckets and all that. And he looked at me a little perplexed and he said, 'You know what? Let me call you back. Let
Mm-hmm.
me call you back. I need to leave to Arizona. I'll call you back.'" Well, like 2, 3 weeks went by and didn't get a call. I was always wondering what happened.
4 weeks, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
wait, good job, man. Like keeping know my book better than me now. Thank you. So yeah, when I was writing the book, I went on this cave for 4 months and did nothing but just write and write and write. And it was a
Yeah.
phenomenal experience, my first book ever. Anyway, so
You did a
yes,
great job, buddy.
thank
Great
you.
job.
Oh, thank you, man. Thank you. So I didn't get a call until like 3, 4 weeks later on a Sunday evening. I was at church actually, and had to be it was late.
Yeah.
And he called me up and said, I said, "Hey, you want the job?" I'm like, Pardon, who is this?" This is Steve Bears. "You want the job?" And I said, "Sir, I was waiting for your call, but it's just getting out of church now. We're gonna have dinner, and I don't understand your call. You like me to go back tomorrow, Monday?" "No, no, come over right now."
Yeah. Do you want this job or not?
Yeah. So I go over, and his office is empty, and big office that Bob now owned, and the owner of the company. So he goes, "Okay, this is your office. That's your office right there, and yeah, build our company. Welcome on board." I said, "Okay, all right. So I'm hired." "Yeah, you're hired." I said, "The good job in the analysis you did. That'll be your first project." I said, "Okay, all right. Well, I'll see you tomorrow. What time?" "Well, whatever time you can get here." I'm like, "Okay, very casual." We didn't discuss salary. It was I don't know if I wrote this in the book, but um uh it, it was it was an interesting experience. I had to work for other companies, but they take you through a process, and
Like an
so
onboarding process, that kind of thing. You
yeah.
just started the next morning, started building the team,
So
and
we
like
built
3 months into it, you hadn't been paid,
Yes. And then all of a
right?
sudden I get this big check. And I remember going to Steve's office and saying, "Hey, what's going on?" And I said, "Do I have the job or not?"
Yeah.
And he kind of said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, yeah, I've been working for 3 months. I haven't got paid." He goes, "You hired a whole bunch of people under you. Are they not getting paid?" "I know they're getting paid, but I'm not getting paid. I'm still probably in the provision period or something."
Right.
"No, no, no, Chris, I'm sorry. I didn't know you weren't getting paid. Call, Arizona and get paid."
Here's the number to the accountant,
Yeah.
right? And then you
Yes.
get on the phone with the accountant, and the accountant's like, "Okay, so you need to be paid for all your hours, your overtime, all this stuff," and you end up with a check that's huge,
Yes. Yes.
absolutely huge, and you're right out of college.
Yeah. And I mean, the check was more than I probably expect to make in a whole year.
Yeah.
Uh, and anyway, so I go to the bank and I literally I'm believing that somebody's gonna come out with a camera and saying, "Ah, we got you. It's a joke."
Yeah. You've been
And
punked.
deposit the check and I'm still thinking, "Oh, they're gonna call me from the bank saying this is a joke, sir. We got you." And then no, the check clears.
Yeah.
So then I go to the bank and I withdraw like 5 grand or whatever, and I'm like, "Oh, this is real money.
Yeah.
I did get hired. Oh my God."
Yeah.
So that was my experience. You
That's
know,
crazy, man. That was one of the coolest things. Reading that was really cool. It was a
heck,
lot of fun.
thank you. Fast forward. And I'm gonna hurry up because I have a hard step in about 8 minutes, man. But I I within months later, unfortunately and fortunately, I took Steve Bears' job,
Mhm.
and like I said, he's one of my mentors. The moment I was offered the job, I actually resigned from the company. I gave my letter of resignation, and Steve himself convinced me to stay, even though he had gotten let go.
Mhm.
And I stayed because he asked me to.
Yeah.
But I became director of operations of an amazing company. And I mean, for those who are listening to this and don't know what that means, any organization, a Costco, a restaurant, chain, franchise, any business should have, at least 10 departments. You have your community liaison, executive department, finance, marketing, operations, accounting, human resources, asset management, those kind of departments. Well, and those departments get led by directors or executives of a organization as big as like Bob's. And I was the director of operations for that company. And it wasn't in the history of Gosnell, they had never hired such a young, executive. But they hired me. So it was amazing. Fast forward, the Great Recession, 2007, right?
Yeah, 2008. Yeah.
Well, actually, it started in 07. That was what, July of 07 when it effectively hit. But it was more like 08. People know it as the 08, but it was 07.
Yeah.
And in that recession, I started, well, can I skip something? But I started, my own company as a GC, as a developer myself. And we started building, that company. And now it's been 18 years with AH Construction. It's been an amazing experience to be the owner of that company and the partnerships that I have through that company. And I started investing in real estate. Later on, opened up the first real estate wholesaling company in the West Coast. That gave me tremendous wealth and monetary wealth. And 13 years ago, I gave my life to God. And, my life became more focused on purpose. And about 2 years ago, I had an assignment from God to build this new company called TCA. That is a real estate business and health education company. And we're not targeting the top 10% of people in the U.S. We're targeting 90% of the people in the U.S. That's what we want to help. People that normally can't pay $30,000, $60,000, $70,000 for education. People who can afford it by just skipping Starbucks. And our courses are very well done. I wrote them myself. And then I hired Dr. Lisa Dunn, who's a scholar, has about 23 universities around the country that she has established. And she went over the course and make sure that it was good curriculum. So we have amazing coaches, the best of the best. We hired the third biggest technology company in the world, the biggest law firm company in our country, second biggest compensation writer, plan writer, and second biggest company in our country as well. Thank you, Elvia. And it's been a phenomenal experience to see the stories, the wins of all the students, 18-year-olds who are now opening up an LLC and learning how to wholesale real estate, have 3 employees under them, or this multi-millionaire guy who comes in and is all in stocks but has no real estate and now is being able to buy real estate, or a guy who just joined as a student who is the biggest producer for EXP world, the entire world. And respectfully, I know we're being recorded, but he allowed me to say this. He didn't own much real estate. Dude, Chris, I make a lot of money on a monthly basis, but I need to own more real estate.
Yeah.
So we're attracting high-level people. We attract who we are, not what we want, right? So we're attracting very high-level people, but we're also attracting the people who had never had an opportunity before to be under this kind of leadership guidance, where we give them the blueprints, roadmaps, strategies, tactics, spreadsheets, pro formas, everything they need to run a thriving business. We have pre-recorded courses, self-paced. We have a private Facebook group they belong to where any question they have nationwide when it comes to business or real estate investing, we guarantee that we answer those questions within 24 hours. They get me live once a week in a Zoom call with all of our students and IBOs, and many more perks, 4 conferences a year live that we do around the country. And it's been a phenomenal experience with what we're doing. When you get to not be distracted by chasing money and focus on your purpose, what truly matters, and your calling. So I'm in convergence, this word that we use a lot in Pathfinders. And convergence is living your authentic self in the authentic path designed by God for you here on this earth, being on purpose. And I believe that I'm successful because I believe that success is when someone discovers their reason for existence and they go out and become the best at it. I believe best in what I do. And just like when I was a youngster, I was trying to be the best at NASCO. I'm the best in what I do here.
Yeah.
So that's my life story.
That's awesome, buddy. That's awesome. So this is an absolute stroke of genius. Everybody needs to get this book. This should be mandatory reading. It's called Just Maximize. This should be mandatory reading for anybody who's getting into real estate investing. And then TCA, how do people, if somebody wants to take a look at TCA, how do they get to that? Now, Dr. Lisa Dunn, by the way, real quick, is also your co-author on this book. So I wanted to make sure we mentioned that. So how does somebody find out about TCA?
So TCA stands for the Chris Aguilar. So you go to www.thechrisaguilar.com. You can reach us through our website. Oh, we are pretty big. We are influencers, and we are pretty big in influencing people through social media. So you can go to Instagram. Perhaps our label is the.Chris Aguilar.
Okay.
You can find us there on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. We're on every social media platform.
So is it chrisaguilar.com or is it thechrisaguilar.com?
Okay, so the website is www.thechrisaguilar.com. But now my label for social media, so you have, your labels for social media, is the.Chris Aguilar.
Okay, so www.thechrisaguilar.com.
Yes.
Okay, so make sure. Okay, cool. Yeah, people need to check this out. This book needs to get read. Anybody that wants to get into real estate, anybody that wants to invest in real estate, this is an absolute must. It should be required reading. I'm not joking. It should be mandatory. And then TCA, I know enough about you now to know that anything you're doing is world class. So people need to check it out for sure. I'm going to go check it out. So
thank you.
Thank you so much for being our guest on the Mike Litton Experience.
Hey, thank you, Mike. And it was so good to actually have my voice back. The first time you heard me speak, I'm honored that you even asked me to be in your podcast. I lost my voice in the middle of my talk. It was so
you asked somebody to jump in and talk while you were trying to get some liquid down.
Yes, it was the first time that ever happened. So it was incredible. But the message was delivered, and I believe we did something here too. So thank you.
You did a great job, buddy.
Appreciate you.
Appreciate you. Take care, okay?
All right, bye-bye.
We hope you enjoyed another episode of the Mike Litton Experience. If you did, do us a favor, smash that subscribe button, tell your friends, family, and coworkers about our program, and wherever you get your podcasts, please leave us a rating. It helps us to connect with quality people just like you.
And that's a wrap. Another episode of the Mike Litton Experience in the books. Reach out to Mike on Instagram at Litton Realty. Want to meet with Mike? Check out calendly.com/Rio760.